I talked to Charles Bedford about the importance of this study. He is the managing director of the Nature Conservancy's Asia Pacific region.
Well, look, if you don't have the right science, then you really have no business passing laws. So what China's undertaken is a thorough and thoughtful, assessment, an inventory essentially of what they've got, what exists in this country from a natural perspective, geologic perspective, geographic perspective, and that underlines and underpins smart policy making. So if you don't really have that information ahead of time, if you don't really know what you've got, you really can't figure out how to govern it.
How much untapped potential is there in China's natural resources, including farmland?
Well, I think the farmland issue is one of the big key factors for China. The Northeast, Dongbei area, the Central China Plain, Southern China's natural resources. I think all of these are huge natural resources for China. China's long been an agriculturally self-sustaining society. It's changed a little bit in the last 10 or 15 years, but it's still a huge production of agricultural goods. The timber industry was shut down after the floods in 1997, but is now experiencing a little bit of a renaissance, and through smart timber practices can become more and more a leader in producing its own sources of fiber and timber. So it's, those are the sorts of resources they have. Obviously, wind and solar are coming on huge and fast in China, and this is a real chance for them to be leaders on the solar and wind front, and changing and shifting away from some carbon-based energy sources.
Well, we do know that China has been trying to balance development. It's building new residential and industrial areas, but it's also trying to protect farmland. So how important is that balance?
Well, I mean, look, you've got to think about how you're going to feed your people before you're going to figure out how to grow the cities. And so I think that's a critical key issue, and one that's, I think, pretty sensitive. Food sustainability, self-sustainability has long been the watchword of the Communist Party in China, and the government's official policy is to be as self-sufficient as possible. So when you start building new cities on top of agricultural land, you start to cut into that margin and start to have to rely further on import food. So that's a sensitive and difficult set of decisions that the Chinese government will have to undertake.
So going forward then, what is the most important thing for China's development planners to keep in mind?
Well, I think you have to think about energy and water and air and food. Because at the root of it, if government can't provide clean air, clean water, clean soil to grow crops on, and the space to do all of those things, then you don't really have a coherent and sustainable society. Now, our experience in China has been that the Chinese government is laser focused on providing these kinds of benefits and goods for society. And there's a lot of hard work and good science going on to do so. So I'm optimistic about that future for China, but there are some major problems to overcome. Soil pollution, water pollution, and air pollution are significant issues that still need solved. So these are, I think, big challenges, but there's also a lot of really smart and talented people thinking about them.
All right, Charles Bedford, thank you for your time. We appreciate your insight.
My pleasure.